car accident, and I wake up as the ex-husband of Miranda Priestley in a trashy romance novel. Thinking of the tragic end that awaited the original guy, I quickly signed my name on the divorce papers. The female CEO's face immediately darkened. "Tenny, are you sure you thought this through?" My heart skipped a beat. I clutched my wallet tightly. Are you kidding me? This was a massive settlement. There was no way I was giving a single cent back. Lying in a hospital bed for 3 days, I finally accepted the reality of my transmigration. I, a regular college student, had been dropped into the body of the villainous supporting character in a cliché-filled novel. I was the ex-husband of the female-led, a trust fund brat who used his family's wealth and power to cause chaos. He fell for Miranda Priestley at first sight during college orientation and pursued her relentlessly, using every dirty trick in the book to force her into marriage. Miranda Priestley, the archetypal beautiful and brilliant heroine from a humble background. Her father was disabled, and her mother suffered from kidney failure. To cover the medical bills, she finally compromised and married me. In 5 years of marriage, Miranda went from a nobody to a rising star in the business world. But our relationship deteriorated. She gradually broke free from my control, a fact the original Tony was completely oblivious to. He remained as arrogant and reckless as ever, until he pushed her from a high place, breaking her leg. That was the last straw. Miranda demanded a divorce. It was at this moment that the car accident happened. Miranda didn't show up until the 3rd day, unceremoniously tossing the divorce agreement in front of me. "Tinny, have you had enough of your games?" The woman's voice was ice-cold, her eyes filled with disdain and hatred. But even so, the moment I saw her face clearly, my heart still pounded. No wonder the original owner was so obsessed. This face was truly a work of art. Then my eyes fell on the divorce agreement, specifically the section detailing the division of assets. My heart nearly stopped. Holy cow. I was rich. The original Tony's family was wealthy, but he was a rebellious playboy with a younger brother who outshone him in every way. He was never going to inherit the family company. Miranda, on the other hand, had built her own empire in just a few years and her assets were considerable. A divorce meant a gigantic payout. I must have done some serious good deeds in my past life to deserve this kind of windfall. After calculating the amount I was about to receive, I suppressed my excitement and bowed my head in silence for a long time, afraid that the grin threatening to split my face would give me away. Then, I took a deep breath. Fine, I agree to the divorce. Miranda was stunned. She probably hadn't expected me to agree so readily. But this was a golden opportunity, and I wasn't about to let it slip away. Before she could recover, I scribbled my signature on the divorce papers with a flourish. Miranda seemed to realize something was off. Her brow furrowed slightly. I tilted my head, my heart feeling like dead ashes. "I've thought it through, Miranda," I said. "Let's just let each other go." Silence stretched on behind me. Just as I was about to lie back down and recount my future savings, I noticed Miranda was still standing there, staring motionlessly at the signed agreement. "You're still here?" I asked, surprised. Miranda looked up. I offered a tactful reminder. "Hey, that Steve guy, his injuries haven't healed yet. Have they? Shouldn't you go see him more often?" Miranda's face instantly turned glacial. A flicker of unease went through me. Was this woman regretting giving me so much money? But my name was already on the paper. She couldn't back out now. Besides, she should at least give me some credit for being so magnanimous and noble. It was only right that she paid up. Back in college, Miranda had a childhood friend, Steve Rogers. Unlike the arrogant, spoiled rich kids, Steve was gentle, understanding, and hardworking. He came from a single-parent household and had a tough upbringing, but he was an admirable person, excelling in many areas. In a way, he and Miranda were truly kindred spirits. He was the only one who understood her, her soulmate. If it weren't for me, the two of them would have naturally gotten together. They would have built a life together in the city after graduation, creating a happy family of their own. All of that was destroyed by me. The original Tony was insanely jealous of Steve, constantly making trouble for him, and eventually resorting to physical violence. From that point on, Miranda utterly despised Tony and cut him off completely. Thinking about it, it was easy to understand. Pissing off both the male and female leads, how tragic would the end of a villainous side character like me be? So, I'd better grab the money and run while I can. Finally, Miranda slammed the door and left. I patted my chest, silently pouting. What a temper. But then I thought about the asset Sophie was about to acquire, and my mood instantly brightened. This kind of once-in-lifetime opportunity doesn't just fall into anyone's lap. As if I was daydreaming, my phone buzzed with a message from Blair Waldorf. "Heard Miranda finally went to see you today." The tone was full of mockery. Blair was the original Tony's childhood friend, a proud and willful heiress whose favourite pastime was partying. She couldn't stand Miranda, and the feeling was mutual. Their rivalry intensified after Miranda and I got married. Blair's grandfather often used Miranda's success to criticise her, which only fueled Blair's hatred. She used to curse me for being lovesick, constantly telling me to go dig for wild vegetables in her garden. This time, she was clearly here to gloat. But did I care? Please. I was busy counting my newfound riches. I had no time to dwell on the past. Yeah, I've thought it through. I already sent her the signed divorce agreement. As of today, I'm a single man again. Treat me to a meal. Blair immediately called me. The first thing she shouted was, "Are you insane?" Imph. Such a harsh way of speaking. As soon as I'm discharged, we're heading straight to the courthouse to finalize it. Luckily, the car accident wasn't too serious, just a minor concussion. Don't you have any feelings left at all? Blair was silent for a moment, then she suddenly laughed. All right then, Mr. Stark. What's the plan? I heard you just opened a new club. A week later, I changed into an expensive suit and left the hospital in style. Blair stood with her arms crossed, smirking. Dressing up like this in a hospital? You're a weirdo. I clicked my tongue. What do you know? Today is a special day. Blair didn't bother to argue, turning to walk out. Unexpectedly, she ran right into Miranda. Miranda's gaze lingered on Blair for a moment, her eyes cold. You're here. I walked over and smiled at her. Where's the car? Miranda's expression softened slightly. In the parking lot. Let's go. Blair was not pleased. She tilted her head, her beautiful eyes narrowing as she looked at me. Tony, you're not riding with me. I waved my hand. Nah, I have to go with Miranda to the courthouse to get the divorce papers first. It's more convenient to take her car. Having said that, I urged Miranda. What are you standing there for? Let's go. Blair chuckled. That's right. This is important business. Don't be late. Miranda's lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Tony, are you that desperate to cut ties with me? Weren't you the one who proposed the divorce? Why are you putting on this act? I said bluntly, mainly because I have other plans tonight. I just want to get this over with quickly, and also to avoid wasting your time. Miranda was always busy. The number of times she came home could be counted on one hand. I knew she didn't want to see me, and frankly, I didn't want to get tangled up with her either. Going our separate ways, free to do as we please, what could be better? Miranda turned her face away coldly. There aren't many people at the courthouse. A short while later, it was our turn. Just as we were about to go in, Miranda's phone suddenly rang. I glanced over. It was Stave. Miranda stepped aside to answer the call. I could faintly hear her soft, gentle voice. I'm still out. I have something to take care of. She had never spoken to Tony in that tone. This marriage was a forced melon from the start. For 5 years, they were constantly at each other's throats. Even sitting down for a proper meal together was a struggle, let alone showing gentle concern. The clerk had already urged us twice. Are you two doing this or not? I shook my head, feeling a pang of pity for the original owner. He truly held no place in Miranda's heart. Miranda, I called out loudly. Can we please get my thing done first this time? Miranda had always prioritized Stave. The original Tony had argued and fought, but she remained indifferent. The original owner was a fool, deluding himself into thinking he could win against Steph. Wasn't that just asking for trouble? Miranda too, if she prioritized my matter this time, wouldn't she be free to be with her true love sooner and with a clear conscience? He's with his moonbeam already. Miranda suddenly looked surprised. Then, she said into the phone, have Dr. Shang check him first. I'll be right there. 20 minutes later, I was holding a brand new divorce certificate, tears welling up in my eyes. It was finally in my hands. My huge settlement was secured. From this day forward, travel, drinks, good food, and fun, happy life awaited. I said to Miranda, sincerely, Miranda, thank you. Goodbye, and thanks for your affection. Also, let's never see each other again. I walked outside and saw Blair right away. She was driving a flashy red Ferrari, so hatching it was hard to miss. I walked over, beaming. I'm rich. I've got to spend it. Suddenly, Miranda's somewhat hesitant voice came from behind me. Tony. I quickly turned around. What else? Miranda bit her red lip, her emotions unreadable for a moment. If it were the old owner, seeing her obviously troubled expression, he would have definitely pestered her for an answer. But I was done pretending. Nothing. I'm leaving. I quickened my pace. For a cannon fodder character like me, staying far away from the male and female leads was the root of all happiness. As I drove away in Blair's car, I glanced in the rearview mirror just once. Miranda was standing there, looking indescribably lonely amidst the bustling crowd. Oh well, without an expert troublemaker like me clinging to her, she's finally free, right? Blair glanced at me. No more? I said excitedly, you'd better save all the girls at your club for me. Blair was utterly speechless. This lady here was actually worried about you. I can't believe I used to think you were so in love with her. Turns out, one divorce is all it takes to put such a huge grin on your face. Ah. Is it that obvious? I pulled down the passenger, side vanity, mirror, and took a good look. The current Tony was 28 years old. Although I had suddenly aged 10 years, thankfully, this face was still handsome and charming. Most importantly, it came with money. I thought for a moment and offered an explanation. She doesn't love me, so I might as well not love her either. While waiting at a red light, Blair turned and stared at me for a long time, until I started to get goosebumps. Then she said cryptically, that car accident seems to have turned you into a completely different person. My heart skipped a beat. I was silent for a moment. Well, maybe after going through some major life events, people tend to see things more clearly, right? Blair was taken aback. Then she burst out laughing. That's true. Tonight, whatever you spend is on me. 2 hours later, Blair was regretting her words. Her face was dark. Haven't you called enough yet? She wasn't talking about the drinks, but the girls at the club. No, they were more like young ladies. I raised my glass to her. Come on, have a drink with me too. Blair. I patted her shoulder and pointed at the group of beautiful girls around me. Look, they're all so pretty and sweet. Who isn't better than my ex-wife? The original owner was the same. There's no shortage of beautiful women in the world. He was rich and handsome. Why did he have to hang himself on one tree? People's biggest problem is overthinking. Blair sneered. You've finally seen the light. The slender girl came to pour me a drink, very obediently. Sir, try this one. Sure. I was about to happily accept it when Blair snatched it away. No mixing drinks. You just got out of the hospital. I don't want to be calling an ambulance for you later. With that, she shot the girl a look. The girl's face immediately paled, and she quickly bowed her head and apologized. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't know. I waved my hand magnanimously. It's fine. I'm in a good mood today. Then I smiled at Blair again, teasing her. You're really something else. It's okay for the officials to light fires, but the common people can't even light a lamp. Her little boy, toes, pour you drinks, and you drink them happily. But when it comes to me, it's not allowed. Blair laughed in exasperation. How can you compare the two? Why not? I'm a newly rich man. I can do whatever I want. Blair suddenly asked again. By the way, does your family know about this? I immediately froze. Oh crap. I forgot about that. Before I could say anything, Blair looked as if she had seen through everything. I knew you wouldn't dare to tell them. It's not that you don't want to. You just don't dare. In truth, my previous self didn't have a good relationship with his family. His parents were conservative, rigid, and favoured his younger brother. He had a rebellious personality. To marry Miranda back then, he had a huge falling out with his family. Later, as Miranda's career took off, his family's attitude did a complete 180, and they often blamed him for his conflicts with her. All in all, this villainous supporting character hadn't had an easy life. But now, with the divorce papers in hand, What did I have to fear? The following days were even more enjoyable than I had imagined. I had the housekeeper pack up all of Miranda's things and send them away. This villa originally belonged to the old owner, a wedding gift from his parents, but Miranda never liked staying here overnight. Perhaps every corner of this place reminded her of the humiliations Tony had inflicted upon her. In the beginning, she often stayed at the office. Later, when her career took off, she bought an apartment near her company. The old owner went there once and happened to run into Steve. How awkward. Apparently, even though Steve quickly explained that he was just taking shelter from the rain, with Tony's temper, how could he not get angry? That time, he and Miranda had a huge fight and gave each other the cold shoulder for a month. In the end, it was Tony who couldn't stand it and gave in. Who else but Miranda occupied his eyes and heart? Now, it was great. This huge, luxurious 3-story villa was all mine. Miranda hadn't left much behind, but after cleaning up, it still felt a bit empty. So, I immediately went out shopping. Then I started pointing and buying at my favorite store. This one, and this one. Not that one. Bag up the rest for me. Yes, Mr. Stark. The store manager's face was beaming like a flower. She was very happy. A few store assistants followed behind me, helping me carry my things. Unexpectedly, just as if I stepped out of the store, I ran into Miranda. She was stunned to see me, and I saw Steve following behind her. It seemed his leg injury was almost healed. He could even go for a stroll in the mall. Miranda's lips moved slightly. Surprisingly, she spoke first. His mother's birthday is coming up, so I brought him here to pick out a gift. I blinked. Why are you telling me this? I don't care. Out of politeness, I still nodded politely. But before I could walk away and say goodbye, Steve also spoke up. His expression seemed a little apologetic. Mr. Stark, I'm sorry. My leg isn't fully recovered yet, so I asked Miranda to bring me here. I see you've bought a lot of things. It must be hard to carry, right? How about we have Miranda help you for a bit? I'll be fine on my own. Listen to this. The art of speaking. He managed to remind Miranda that I had pushed him, imply that I shouldn't be jealous and even generously offer Miranda to me. I smiled and said, no need. My car is parked right downstairs. Besides, it's best not to bother 'ems. Priestley with such private matters. Steve was stunned. What? I also looked at Miranda in surprise. Priestley, you still haven't told Mr. Rogers that we're divorced. The atmosphere became silent. Steve looked at Miranda with a face full of shock. Miranda's beautiful face was stiff, her expression unpleasant. I don't like to publicize my private affairs. Are you implying that I'm the one being ostentatious? All I did was throw a few divorce parties. Why so uptight? Steve also seemed not to expect such a bombshell. He opened his mouth. Miranda, you and Mr. Stark. Why didn't you tell me? Hearing his voice, Miranda seemed to remember his presence. Her red lips moved, paused for a moment, then she explained softly, I've been too busy lately. I forgot. She used to love using that excuse to brush Tony off. I never thought the tables would turn and Steve would get the same treatment. But a male lead and a supporting character are ultimately different. The Steve. This was a godsend. His eyes darted between Miranda and me a few times before he spoke apologetically. I'm sorry. I didn't know before. I didn't mean to bring it up. Mr. Stark, you don't mind, do you? Of course, I didn't mind in the slightest. She was just a woman I was no longer involved with. Nah. You two have fun. My assistant is having a tough time with all my bags. I'll get going. I had barely taken a step when Miranda suddenly called out, wait. I turned back. Is there something else? Priestley. Miranda frowned slightly, seemingly still not used to my sudden change in attitude towards her. My mother mentioned yesterday that you haven't visited her in a while. Miranda's voice was low, as if the words were difficult to say, but she had to. If you have time, you should go see her. She was talking about her mother, the one with kidney failure. Unlike Miranda, her mother had always been very fond of the original Tony. Because Miranda had never told her she was forced into the marriage, in the old woman's heart, Tony was a great young master who hadn't looked down on their family's poor conditions and was utterly devoted to her daughter. Naturally, she found Tony endearing. In the early days of their marriage, to win Miranda over, Tony had actively taken care of her mother, trying to win points with the elder. He knew this was his last trump card. Miranda was a filial daughter. For this reason alone, she wouldn't easily blow things up with him. But when Tony laid hands on Steve, he crossed her bottom line. With that, Tony lost his final ace. I thought for a moment and finally agreed. All right, I'll go tomorrow. After all, the old woman had done nothing wrong. Miranda's expression visibly relaxed, and she naturally added, then I'll come pick you up tomorrow morning. I smiled at her, dangling the car keys in my hand. No need. I'm perfectly capable of getting there myself. I'll drive. Wouldn't want to bother 'ems. Priestly. The expressions on both Miranda's and Steve's faces froze simultaneously. The next morning, I set off for the care facility. It was a high-end establishment in the suburbs with excellent facilities and services, which of course came with a hefty price tag. Mr. Stark, you're here. The caregiver saw me and greeted me politely. She was hired by Miranda and, knowing about my strained relationship with her, had become distant with me as well. Miranda's mother was lying in bed, ravaged by chronic kidney disease that left her thin and weak. Fortunately, her years at the facility had improved her condition significantly. The caregiver, Xiao Liar, glanced at the lunchbox in my hand and pouted with a hint of disdain. Even a caregiver didn't buy my act of concern. She knew that no matter what I did, it would only make Miranda despise me more. Tony, dear. Miranda's mother saw me, her face breaking into a gentle smile. Have you been busy? It's been so long. I sighed internally. The original Tony had only ever used her, but she had taken it as genuine affection. The old woman had done nothing wrong. A little. I brought you some chicken soup, Mom. Have a taste. Miranda's mother took my hand, studying me for a long moment before asking carefully, did that girl Miranda upset you again? I shook my head, but she didn't believe me. She sighed helplessly. Miranda has been stubborn since she was a child, and she likes to keep things bottled up. If she makes you unhappy, you just tell me. I'll talk to her for you. I felt an even deeper sense of guilt. I had planned to tell her about the divorce, but now the words were stuck in my throat, impossible to say. I had lunch with her and chatted for a while longer. Before leaving, I hesitated for a long time before finally saying, I'm going to be busier for a while, so I might not be able to visit as often. I figured I could reduce my visits first, then find the right time to tell her the truth. It was better than hiding it forever. Miranda probably wouldn't agree to me visiting too often anyway. She'd likely think I still had ulterior motives. The mother patted my hand and sighed softly. Tony, you're a good boy. What happened before? It was Miranda's fault. Even though she's never mentioned it in front of me, I know she blames herself deeply. She regrets it so much. She loved you so much. With the baby gone, how could she not be heartbroken? A heavy feeling settled in my chest. The baby. That was the event that caused the complete and utter collapse of Tony and Miranda's relationship. Yes, they had once had a child. It was conceived after a business party where Miranda got drunk and Tony had taken advantage of the situation. In short, the child's conception was not exactly honourable. But in Tony's eyes, this was his ultimate weapon to keep Miranda by his side. After discovering the pregnancy, Miranda felt guilty towards Steve on one hand, but on the other, she couldn't bear to give up her own flesh and blood. She chose the child. Her own childhood had been hard enough. She couldn't stand the thought of her own child being born into a broken home. That period was the best their relationship had ever been. She obediently ate the nutritional supplements Tony bought for her, and even read parenting guides. She genuinely wanted to be a good mother. That's why, after the miscarriage, she completely cut ties with him. The whole thing was rather bizarre. After Miranda became pregnant, Tony sensed a positive shift in her attitude. He pushed his luck, demanding she be by his side at all times. Whenever Miranda refused, he'd use prenatal education and bonding with the child as excuses, forcing her to comply. But as this repeated, Miranda grew resentful. Once, Miranda had to go on a business trip, and Steve was part of the delegation. Tony adamantly refused to let her go, telling her to send someone else and focus on the pregnancy at home. Miranda felt he was encroaching on her freedom, being possessive and dictatorial. They had a massive fight. Tony, can you please act like a normal person for once? Stop thinking everyone is as depraved as you are, okay? With that, She slammed the door and left. That very night, Tony received news. Miranda, in her anger, had suffered stress-induced bleeding and miscarried. One can only imagine how, after this incident, their relationship shattered, leading to earth-shattering arguments. If Miranda had merely disliked Tony before, after this it turned into pure hatred. She never set foot in their marital home again and cut off all contact. This continued until Tony found Steve and pushed him down a flight of stairs, the final straw that broke everything. It's no wonder the original owner was considered insane. He was so ruthless he didn't even spare himself. I was silent for a moment before saying, "It's all in the past now. The old Tony is gone. Let's just let it all go." Leaving the nursing home, I felt a little down, whether it was for Miranda's mother or for the original Tony. I couldn't say. That melancholy reached its peak when I discovered I had carelessly lost my car keys. In despair, I called Blair to come pick me up. "Get here quick." Blair found it ridiculous. "Am I your personal driver? At your beck and call. I'm not asking for a free ride," I said. "Blair, this nursing home is pretty remote. It's not easy to get a cab." Blair reluctantly agreed. By the time we got home, it was already dark, and to make matters worse, it had started to pour. Looking at the downpour outside, I magnanimously offered Blair the second-floor guest room for the night. I didn't expect that early the next morning, someone would be ringing the doorbell like their life depended on it. Who's making such a racket this early? I groggily opened my eyes and went to open the door. "Who is it? Why are you here?" The person standing outside was Miranda. Just as she was about to speak, footsteps sounded from the staircase. Blair's voice, clearly annoyed at being woken up, drifted down. "Who is it?" Miranda's face instantly turned to ice. She bit out each word as if grinding them between her teeth. "It seems if I've come at a bad time. My apologies for interrupting." I mentally rolled my eyes. "You know you're disturbing people's sleep. And what's with the attitude? This is my house, understand? You're just the ex-wife. What right do you have to be angry? Who are you trying to play the cheated and victim for? You cheated on me for so long, and I haven't even brought it up." I turned my head and said to Blair, "It's nothing. Go back to sleep." Blair was a total princess. She had gotten stuck here because of me and the rain. The least I could do was ensure she got a good night's sleep, right? Seeing Miranda, Blair seemed to wake up a bit. She gave a lazy smile. "Oh, we have a guest. It would be rude of me to go back to bed now. Sunny, you're being so rude. Why don't you invite her in for a bit? I told you she gets cranky when she doesn't sleep well." I ignored her and looked back at Miranda, with no intention of letting her in. I had just finished clearing out all her stuff. I didn't want this house tainted again, making more work for the housekeeper. "So early, Ms. Priestley. Is there something you need?" I asked it. Miranda's face was ashen. Blair's words had clearly hit a nerve, but she couldn't lash out. In the past, she could have used her status as the lady of the house to kick Blair out. But now, she had less standing than Blair. She couldn't even get through the front door. But women like her are resilient. Miranda was no exception. She took a deep breath, ignoring Blair, and pulled a key from her bag. "You left this at my mother's place yesterday. She insisted I bring it to you." The subtext was clear. She was only here because her mother made her come. "Thanks." I took the key. "You really didn't have to make a special trip." "I have a spare." Miranda was speechless. I waited a few seconds, my patience wearing thin. I prompted her delicately. Was there anything else, Ms. Priestley? If Miranda couldn't pick up on that cue to leave, she wouldn't have reached the position she held today. She bit her red lip. Slam. I closed the door. Blair was standing on the stairs, staring at me. I asked in surprise, "You're not going back to sleep? Why are you looking at me like that?" Blair narrowed her eyes, her arms crossed. "Nothing. Just thinking you're being a bit heartless to your ex-wife." I was speechless. If you have nothing better to say, you don't have to say anything at all. Blair lifted her chin slightly. "Fanny, don't tell me you can't see what she's thinking." I retorted. "What is she thinking?" Blair leaned against the railing, saying lazily, "She wanted to see you, didn't she? Otherwise, she wouldn't have rushed over here first thing in the morning just to return a car key." and she certainly wouldn't have looked so upset seeing me in your house. It tilted my head. Blair tapped her finger on the railing, as if saying it casually. Don't you feel anything? Feel what? She gave me a sideways glance. That I almost have to chase after her. I found it slightly amusing. I do. Blair looked over, her gaze wavering, and straightened up a bit. I shrugged. I feel like I divorced her too late. If I'd known what she was like, I wouldn't have wasted so much of my time on her. Blair seemed not to expect me to say that. She stared at me for a long time, then suddenly tilted her head and smiled. Well done, Tony. You've finally shown some promise. I feel very encouraged. I couldn't help but return the compliment. Hardly. I'm still leagues behind you. You're the true master who can walk through a field of flowers without a single petal sticking. Tony, I've told you 1,000,000 times, I have nothing to do with those men. I quickly agreed. I know. You're just toying with them. Princess, you haven't met your one true love yet. Isn't that how it goes in the novels? The proud heiress eventually meets her fated love and has to pay back all her romantic debts tenfold. Blair just stared at me, leaving me with a final. I knew it. Talking to an idiot like you gets nowhere. Then, she went back to sleep. I slept until the afternoon, woken by hunger. When I checked my phone, it was flooded with missed calls and messages, all from this body's parents. A quick scan told me why they were suddenly contacting me. They'd found out about my divorce from Miranda. You divorced Miranda? What on earth were you thinking? How many times have I told you, Miranda's company is booming right now. We're in talks for a partnership with her side. What are we supposed to do now that you've done this? How old are you? Why are you still so stubborn? You just get a divorce on a whim. Don't you ever think about anyone else? You're so selfish. I don't have a son like you. It was just the same old script on repeat. I looked for a bit then stopped, heading out to find food. My jaw dropped. Before me was a table laden with delicious food, and Blair, leisurely enjoying her meal. Blair, do you have a conscience? You're eating all by yourself. Blair nonchalantly raised her eyes. Was I supposed to starve? Because of you? Fair point. Very convincing. I couldn't argue with that. I walked right over, picked up some chopsticks, and snagged a piece of my favourite sweet and sour pork. Say what you will, Blair really knows her food. The takeout she orders is always better than what anyone else gets. By the way, your parents called me, Blair said suddenly. They said they were looking for you, but you weren't answering. I took another piece of braised pork rib. I know. Blair paused her chopsticks, her eyes flicking to my phone. Did I? Make myself scarce. I waved my hand. No need. They can say what they want. It's already done. There's nothing they can do about it. As if on cue, my phone rang again. I answered it without even activating the speakerphone. The person on the other end launched into a tirade. Tony, you go find Miranda right now. Tell her you were wrong, that it was a moment of weakness, and beg her to remarry you. Hearing that sharp female voice, I held the phone a little further from my ear. Remarry. What a thought. Getting yelled at or being in Miranda's clutches. He knew which was worse. Tony, are you even listening to me? I finally managed to get a word in. I'm listening. But this is a bit difficult. I don't think I can do it. The person on the other end grew even angrier. Tony, is that the attitude you should have towards your parents? Didn't you say before that you didn't want a son like me? Have you forgotten? The person on the other end was struck dumb. She seemed to want to scold me more, but I was done listening. I had made my position clear. I'm busy. Talk later. I hung up and blocked the number. Blair witnessed this entire smooth operation. She decisively put down her chopsticks and studied me from head to toe for a long moment before exclaiming, Damn. Not only did you ditch your ex-wife, Tony, but now you're even standing up to your parents. I was still chewing on a piece of meat, mumbling a reply. Where there is oppression, there is resistance. Blair let out a small, humorless laugh. She leaned forward slightly, resting her chin on one hand, her red lips curving up. So, does that mean I might be next one day? I gave her a thumbs, for her self-awareness. Her reaction didn't surprise me at all. She grew up with the original Tony. She knew exactly what kind of person he used to be. From her perspective, my current actions could probably be summed up in one sentence. I'd lost my mind. But then again, who wouldn't go crazy dealing with this mess? I was just a supporting character without the protagonist's plot armor. Running away early was the only way to save my own skin. Oh, right. Help me look for a new house, I said. This place isn't bad, but it's hard to avoid the occasional disturbance. It's annoying. It wasn't just Miranda. The original owner's family were all sources of trouble. Today, I had completely burned my bridges with them. Who knew if they'd show up at my door causing a scene? I had no interest in dealing with them. Blair understood. Leave it to me. Blair was, without a doubt, a quintessential third-generation heiress. While she spent most of her time on leisure and pleasure, when you really needed her, she was surprisingly reliable. The very next day, she called to tell me she'd found a villa on the west side of the city. The previous owner had gone abroad and was in a hurry to sell. The house was newly renovated and had never been lived in. I got you a steal. I was very satisfied with her efficiency. That same day, I dragged Blair to sign the contract with the owner and rushed through the transfer of ownership. Then I immediately put the old house up for sale. I had called a moving company, and a team of movers were bustling up and down the stairs. I stood by silently. You never realize how much stuff you have until you move. I had to tip them extra. Mr. Stark, what's in this box? It's heavy. A mover brought down a large cardboard box from the third floor. It was sealed tightly, and you couldn't tell what was inside. I was about to go check it out when my phone rang. Hello, is this Mr. Stark? This is the Third People's Hospital. Your wife suddenly fainted on the road and was brought in by a good Samaritan. Could you please come over, quickly? I was stunned. Miranda fainted and was taken to the hospital. You must have the wrong person. I'm not her husband, I explained. The voice on the other end was surprised. But the contact note in the patient's phone. I remembered. Back when Miranda was pregnant, Tony had insisted on changing her contact info for him in her phone to father of my child, Tony. She couldn't argue with him and had to let him. I can't believe after all this time, she forgot to change it back. How is she? The patient likely fainted due to low blood sugar. It's not life-threatening. However, her overall condition is not good. You should still come as soon as possible. I see, but I'm a bit busy right now. How about this? You call her current boyfriend. His name is Stave Rogers. His number should be in her contacts. From now on, just contact him directly for anything. After hanging up, I saw that the living room was filled with even more boxes. How long was this going to take? Just move everything over first. I'll sort it out when I have time. Luckily, the new house was big enough. I had the housekeeper briefly organize my things, then I played a few rounds of games. I checked out a newly opened, popular barbecue joint. The food was pretty good, and the decor was especially on point. I couldn't resist taking a few pictures and posting them on my social media to check in. The caption read, "Another day of gains," accompanied by a dashing selfie. Friends started liking it one after another. Even Blair, who was usually a ghost on social media, left a comment, "This place isn't bad." I replied, "You've been." Blair, of course. I opened it. Speechless. She had managed to flex on me again. However, what I didn't expect was for Stave to also leave a comment. It was the kind of polite on the surface, but passive-aggressive comment meant to question and pressure you from a moral high ground. Steve wrote, "Tini, even though you and Miranda are divorced, she's lying in a hospital bed right now. Is it really appropriate for you not to even visit once? Me. Is she seriously ill?" The moment he posted that, my friend circle exploded. Only a few people knew about my divorce from Miranda. I hadn't even drafted the official announcement yet. And here he was, already standing on his high horse. I replied with a non-committal. A truic should be like they never existed. I was just afraid you'd misunderstand. If you don't mind, then I'll go. After all, we were college classmates. A visit is only proper. What do you think? My friends went wild in the comments. Not long after, Stave deleted his comment himself. Did he think deleting it meant it never happened? I immediately posted a public query in my feed, asking my brilliant friends what gift would be appropriate to bring when visiting one's ex-wife and her current partner. Please help. This is really important to me. An hour later, I arrived at the hospital with a fruit basket. I didn't expect to hear Steve's pitying voice from outside the room before I even went in. "Miranda, don't be angry anymore. I know I was wrong this time, but I was just doing it for you." Miranda didn't respond. Steve sounded both resentful and aggrieved. "You fainted, and the hospital even called him, but he couldn't even be bothered to come see you once. If anything had happened to you today, it would seem like I was the one who made a huge mistake." Finally, Miranda's tired voice came through. "I'm a little tired. I want to be alone." A moment later, the sound of a chair scraping came from the room. Steve walked to the door, and as soon as he opened it, he saw me. He froze in surprise. Miranda noticed something was off and looked over. Her face was very pale, lacking her usual powerful CO aura. Lying in the hospital bed with an IV drip, she looked unusually fragile. Seeing me, her originally dim eyes brightened slightly, and she seemed a bit nervous, a bit flustered. "Why are you here?" I walked past Steve and into the room. "What else?" "I was afraid people would gossip, saying I abandoned my ex-wife right after the divorce. We were college classmates, after all. No need to make things so ugly, right?" Miranda's beautiful face turned ashen, her lips pressed into a tight line. She must have seen my online spat with Steve. A proud person like her couldn't stand being publicly mocked like that. It was a true humiliation. In her heart, her hatred for me must have deepened yet again. Thinking of this, I felt annoyed. "All right, I've made my appearance. If there's nothing else, I'll be going." The corner of Miranda's mouth twitched up. "Tony, do you have to be like this?" I raised an eyebrow, asking sincerely, "Like what? You didn't come to see me until the 3rd day after my car accident. Compared to you, I've been more than decent. If we're talking about ruthlessness, who could possibly beat you? The great female led." Miranda's face instantly turned deathly pale. She opened her mouth, as if wanting to say something. My phone suddenly rang. It was the housekeeper from home. "Mr. Stark, most of your things have been sorted, but there's still one box we haven't touched. It's full of ceramics. What would be the best way to handle them?" I was momentarily confused. "Ceramics?" "Yes, and it looks like you made them yourself, so I thought I'd ask for your opinion." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Miranda's stunned gaze. A flash of insight hit me. I remembered. These ceramics were indeed made by the original owner himself. In college, Miranda had worked part-time at a pottery studio. To pursue her, Tony would often drop by and stay for the whole afternoon. He had no talent for it and no patience. His eyes and heart were only on Miranda. He would always end up a mess, bringing home a product so ugly it was unbearable. Yet he did it happily, without a shred of embarrassment. Finally, Miranda couldn't stand it anymore and told him he was doing it wrong. Tony immediately seized the opportunity, pushing his luck. "Then you teach me." Of course, Miranda refused. But Tony was a big spender, a VIP at the studio, so she couldn't afford to offend him. This continued until Miranda quit her job. That box of artworks was accumulated that way. "They're not important." "Throw them all away," I said nonchalantly. "Wait," Miranda suddenly spoke up. "You moved." I had to admit. This woman was still sharp at times. I nodded. "Yeah, I did." Miranda frowned. "Where did you move to? Why so suddenly?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Priestley, C.O. Priestley, how many times do I have to remind you? We are divorced. What I do and where I am have nothing to do with you anymore." Miranda seemed to choke, as if she'd heard something utterly unacceptable. Her eyes reddened slightly. After a long moment, she finally relented, saying softly, "Those ceramics. If you don't want them, I'll have someone pick them up." I gave her a strange look. "They were always mine to begin with. I'll keep them if I want, and I'll toss them if I want." I don't know what nerve that sentence struck in Miranda. The last bit of light in her eyes flickered out, like a weak flame in the wind, finally extinguished. Stave rushed over anxiously. "Miranda, are you okay?" Miranda tilted her head slightly, avoiding his hand. Steve stood there, clearly embarrassed. but I had no interest in this drama. I turned to leave, but just as I reached the door, I was stopped by a doctor. I looked up to see a female doctor in her 40s staring at me intently. "Why are you here? Are you not feeling well?" I was a bit dazed. Then I saw the name tag on her chest, Head of Obstetrics. A guess formed in my mind. The only thing that could connect the original Tony to this doctor was the child from before. "Thank you for your concern, doctor, but I'm fine. I'm just here visiting a friend," I replied vaguely. She seemed to let out a sigh of relief. "That's good. But you too are at that age now. Next time you have a child, you can't just get rid of it." I froze on the spot. Those two short sentences contained a massive amount of information. Wait, wasn't Miranda's miscarriage an accident? What did this doctor mean? Right, that night when Tony arrived at the hospital, Miranda had already been wheeled out of the operating room. Steve was standing by her bed. "Miranda, what are you doing?" While I was still reeling, Steve's panicked shout came from behind me. I turned around to see Miranda pulling out her own IV needle. She pushed Steve away and rushed towards me. She rushed in front of me, blocking the female doctor, her voice strained like never before. "Doctor, this is a matter between my husband and me. It doesn't concern you." My entire body went cold. I rigidly turned my neck to look at Miranda. For the first time, that beautiful face seemed so alien. "Miranda, what is the meaning of this?" The doctor's brow furrowed. "You didn't know. Your wife said that both of you were currently focused on building your careers and weren't ready for a child, so she decided to have the procedure. You were completely unaware. I don't remember how I got home." I was completely stunned by the unexpected shock. The information was staggering. I sat in the study for a long time, my eyes closed. How could this be? The book clearly stated that Miranda had a miscarriage because of a huge fight caused by Tony's jealousy. How could it be an abortion? For some reason, as I recalled this, a part of my body seemed to ache in sympathy, as if I could feel the despair and agony he must have felt when he learned the child was gone. This made me feel even worse. I shook my head, trying to dispel these feelings. The study had just been cleaned. I rummaged through a few things and found a box specifically for storing college memorabilia. At the very bottom, I found a college scrapbook. If the abortion story was different from the novel, could other parts be different too? I turned to the first page. It was a photo from freshman orientation. Under the bright sun, a young man in a green uniform was smiling brilliantly. On the stage behind him stood a slender, graceful figure. Though distant, a keen eye could immediately recognize her. It was the college-aged Miranda Priestley. Below the photo were a few lines of small text. "First day of orientation. A female student fainted from heat stroke right next to me. I carried her to the infirmary. She was so light. I didn't expect to see her again today, representing the new students on stage. Turns out her name is Miranda Priestley. Taking a selfie just to secretly capture the person you like in the background. Such a typical move." This must have been when he first fell for Miranda. I almost wanted to laugh. Tony falling for Miranda. Ugh. I never thought it would be such a simple, ordinary love, first sight story. I couldn't help but touch my face. The Tony in the book was selfish, capricious, obsessive, and extreme, but that seemed so different from this bright, open smile. It was hard to imagine that this boy with stars in his eyes would eventually become such a suspicious, domineering, obsessive, and selfish man. I continued flipping through the pages and found that every single photo, unexpectedly, was related to Miranda. A picture of her studying in a tiered lecture hall. A picture of her on the badminton court, racket in hand, her long hair flying. A picture of her alone in the cafeteria, getting her own meal. A picture of her with her head down, working hard in the pottery studio. Occasionally, next to these photos, there were short captions. "The classes she picks are so boring. How can a girl be so good at academics and sports? She always seems to eat alone, and she always picks the cheapest things in the cafeteria. Is she getting enough to eat? She always seems so busy, she doesn't even have time to talk to me." This was a diary of Tony's secret love for Miranda. 4 years of college, he had taken so many photos of her. Every picture, every sentence, was completely different from the Tony in the book. She seems to have someone she likes, but it's not me. What should I do? Maybe I should just give up. Tomorrow is graduation. Maybe I should confess to her, and then say goodbye to this unrequited love. She suddenly left during the graduation photos. I secretly followed her and found out her mother's condition had worsened. She needs a lot of money. What is she going to do? This page should have held a graduation photo, but it was empty. For Miranda's sake, Tony had missed his own graduation photo. My hand trembled slightly. For some reason, this scrapbook felt incredibly heavy, so heavy that I could barely continue turning the pages. It felt as if continuing to look would unleash something beyond my control. A heavy stone seemed to press on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Pushed by some unknown force, I still turned to the next page. It was a wedding photo, or, more accurately, a registration photo from their marriage certificate. Tony still had a smile on his face, though it was much more restrained than before. His lips were slightly turned up, and his body was angled slightly towards Miranda beside him. Miranda's expression, however, was placid, completely out of place against the festive red background. That's when I remembered. They didn't seem to have any wedding photos. After a year of struggle, Miranda had finally chosen to marry Tony. She wasn't marrying the person she loved most, so naturally, she had no interest in such formalities. Besides, her mother was still in the hospital at the time. They didn't have a ceremony or a photo shoot. They simply went to get the certificate. Just like that, they were married. I thought this page would be filled with Tony's words about finally being with Miranda, but the page was completely blank. I stared at that photo for a long time, a lump forming in my throat. 5 years of secret love, 5 years of marriage. And this was the only photo they had together. I suppressed the emotion in my heart and continued to the next page, but there were no more pictures of Miranda, only scattered sentences. She seems very busy lately. The company is just starting, and she has to handle everything herself. It must be so hard. I made her favourite sweet and sour pork ribs, but she came back from a client dinner reeking of alcohol, collapsed onto the bed, and fell asleep. She bought an apartment near the company, saying it's for convenience. But that man is there too. I know I can't compare to his place in her heart, but I still want to have a child that belongs to us. Am I beyond saving? I went to the nursing home today and ran into Blair leaving with her father. She said I was a fool. That for a woman like Miranda Priestley, these methods are completely useless. I immediately turned and left, because I knew she was right. I was ready to give up. But she came back that night. I don't know if a client meeting went badly. She was so drunk. I couldn't stop myself from kissing her. For the first time, she kissed me back. The middle was blank, until a certain page. She seems to be pregnant. I continued reading. Those 2 months were indeed the best period in their relationship. Even though he knew Miranda's change in attitude was only because of the baby, he asked for nothing more. He had been hopelessly in love with this person for many, many years. He once thought she was the light of his life. He wanted to receive warmth and favour from her, but it was a mistake from the very beginning. All these seemingly beautiful things were ultimately brutally torn apart. The last page was a torn abortion, consent form. In the bottom right corner was Miranda Priestley's signature. It was like a sudden bolt of lightning. An overwhelming pain washed over me. My whole body went numb, my limbs cold. Countless images flashed through my mind, a frantic flood, as if trying to swallow me whole. I was like a fish gasping before a storm, trying to surface for air, only to be swept into even larger waves. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. And then I remembered. I didn't transmigrate into a book. I am Tony. The phone suddenly rang, its sound piercing in the quiet study. I snapped back to reality. It was Blair. I answered. Before I could speak, Blair asked directly, "You went to the hospital to see Miranda today, didn't you? She was supposed to be on a business trip this afternoon." Logically, she shouldn't know what was happening on my end. Although I posted on my social media, she shouldn't know the specifics, especially the timing. Yes. I didn't deny it. How did you know? She paused for a moment. Miranda called me. Asked some things about you. I see. I nodded, not intending to ask further. Hearing my calm tone, Blair seemed to sense something was wrong. It's so late. Are you still not asleep? She softened her voice, changing the subject. I was about to answer when I heard the doorbell. The person at the door was, unexpectedly, Miranda. I hung up on Blair, went downstairs and opened the door, but I didn't let her in. It was completely dark outside. The street light behind her cast a soft glow, leaving her face half in light, half in shadow. What is it? I asked it. Her lips were pale. I wanted to apologize. It had been 3 hours since I left the hospital. She was only just now thinking of saying these words. No need, I said, my voice flat. It's all in the past. It's too late. I don't need that apology anymore. Miranda's face grew even paler. To me. Let me explain. I can explain. That day, I was acting on impulse. Was it impulse, or was it premeditated? I asked softly. Carrying my child. It made you suffer, didn't it? Miranda froze for a long moment before slowly closing her eyes, forcing out each word. At first, I really didn't want this child. But then, as the baby grew day by day, I was just confused at that moment. I regretted it. I regret it now. Don't you think it's a little too late for regret? Remorse filled Miranda's eyes, her shoulders trembling as she stood speechless. A small, cold smile touched my lips, making me think it was an accidental miscarriage because of me. You thought I would be consumed by guilt, that I would stop using the child as leverage and finally set you free. Is that it? Miranda stared at me, dumbfounded. Subconsciously, she had always believed I was that selfish and self-serving, a man filled with possessiveness, jealousy, and hatred. She believed that without the child, I would have no reason to bind her, to cling to her. Her lips trembled, each word seeming to be a struggle. But this was between the two of us. Why did you suddenly attack Steph? I looked at her quietly. This woman, the woman I had loved for 10 years. But even at this moment, the person she cared about was still another man. I laughed. No reason. I just don't like him. He deserved it. But the baby's gone, and we're divorced. Miranda, you can finally be with him. You should be happy, shouldn't you? That's not it. As if struck by a blow, Miranda stepped forward and grabbed my wrist. I don't love him. Tony, please don't talk to me in this tone. And where? I frowned, about to push her away. A soft chuckle sounded from behind us. Looks like I've come at a bad time. I realized the newcomer was Blair, who was supposed to be on a business trip. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her beautiful eyes glinting with a cold light. Miranda Priestley, didn't I tell you? You're the one who wanted the divorce. So stop pestering him. Miranda bit her lip, her gaze toward Blair filled with hostility. What happens between Tinny and me is none of an outsider's business. Blair raised an eyebrow. Stepping closer in her slender high heels, she stopped beside me, looping her arm through mine. My heart skipped a beat. Blair. She tilted her head to look at me, her smile both charming and bright. What's wrong? Thinking of getting back with your ex? My mind was a mess. I shook my head. Jew. Why did you come back so suddenly? She lifted her chin slightly. If I didn't, I'd have to watch her harass you here. Miranda stared at Blair's arm, linked with mine, the corners of her eyes turning red. Blair, don't make yourself sound so noble. You know perfectly well what dirty thoughts you're harboring. Blair laughed again, turning to me with a radiant smile. Since C.O. Priestley is so perceptive, why don't you tell us, C.O. Priestley, what exactly are my intentions? Miranda fell silent, her lips pressed tightly together. Blair sneered. What's the matter? CEO Priestley doesn't want to say. Then, let me say it for you. I was waiting for you two to divorce, so it would be easier for me to pursue him. An opportunity this good doesn't come along every day. Of course, I have to pay close attention and seize it. The night wind carried her words, each one hammering against my eardrums. A storm brewed in my chest, silent and tumultuous. Blair continued, and you, Miranda Priestley. But if you had eyes, if you had a conscience, you wouldn't have asked those questions just now. Did you really think someone would forgive you forever, that they would give you endless chances? Miranda's face suddenly turned ashen, her body swaying as if she might fall at any moment. She mumbled, her voice cracking. I really didn't mean it. Blair didn't seem to want to hear it, cutting her off directly, her voice turning colder. He had just managed to forget those things. He was preparing to start a new life. Did you have to bring it all up again? I shot a sudden look at Blair. Something about what she just said. It didn't sound right. Did she realize something? But Blair didn't notice my reaction, simply saying flatly, "You should go, and don't come back." Miranda looked like she was about to collapse, her eyes losing focus, dazed and lost. I didn't want to look anymore. I turned to her and said, "All right, you've asked the questions you wanted to ask. I've answered them all. From today on, you and I have nothing to do with each other." With that, I turned to leave. Suddenly, there was a heavy thud behind me. Miranda had actually knelt on the ground. Her voice trembled uncontrollably. "I know I was wrong. It's all my fault. Please. Give me one more chance. Can we start over?" Blair's first reaction was to look at me. Her usual pride and arrogance were gone, replaced by those beautiful, shimmering eyes fixed on me, her hand by her side clenched slightly, her small face tense. She was nervous. Miranda was waiting for my answer. And so was she. I turned back, looking at Miranda quietly. Miranda, married for 5 years. I wasn't like Steve, someone you could love. Instead, I only brought you trouble, even delusionally tried to possess you. Utterly shameless to the extreme. That's what you think, isn't it? Miranda's face was ashen. I added softly, "Furthermore, even this marriage was forced upon you by me. If it weren't for your mother, you would have never been with me, never gotten entangled with me for so long. This is your assessment of our marriage, isn't it? Miranda, this is what you told me yourself, right before the accident. Am I wrong?" Miranda's face was filled with regret, her eyes a storm of confusion. I was just emotional that day when I said those things. I was just angry. I didn't. Her words made me understand completely. In her eyes, I was a ridiculous, pathetic, and hateful figure. After losing the child, I was in despair and began to consider letting her go. A man like me was completely unworthy of being with her anymore. So when Steve asked to meet me later, I agreed. I wanted a chance to have a clear conversation with this man who was always, in one way or another, interfering in my marriage with Miranda. To settle things once and for all. But that day, before I could even ask my own questions, Steve showed me the abortion consent form. "Tony, you didn't really think a child could win Miranda's heart, did you? Actually, I was right beside her when you called. I heard everything. I even advised her to listen to you, to stay home and not go on the business trip. But do you know what she said? She said you were just using the child to tie her down. So annoying. You've liked Miranda since freshman year, right? Oh, right. I think it was because she fainted during orientation, and you took her to the infirmary. Helping others is a good thing, but you can't expect someone to devote their life to you over such a small thing, can you? Tony, don't be a fool. You continuing like this. It's really difficult for Miranda. So much so that even having your child felt disgusting to her. I never expected Steve to intentionally fall down the stairs, and I never expected Miranda to show up at that exact moment. She didn't listen to my explanation. She wept by Steve's side, overcome with worry, and from beginning to end, she never once glanced at me. And after all that, I finally waited for a moment when she would spare a little time for me. I wanted to confront her about the child, but her words stopped me dead in my tracks. Tony, how long are you going to keep this up? Don't you know? Everything about you, from head to toe, disgusts me. That day, I wandered the streets aimlessly for a long time. My mind was filled with her hateful words, her accusations. Was I too selfish? Was I too extreme? Was I that detestable? Until the out-of-control car came crashing towards me, and I blacked out. When I woke up again, I had become a different me. A me in Miranda's eyes. She had created a phantom world for me. And in this world, I was arrogant, selfish, obsessive, and unreasonable. More importantly, my instincts no longer loved her. I stared into Miranda's eyes and said calmly, "But Miranda, in this world, I no longer love you either. My love was once yours for the taking. But you are not worthy." The next morning, when I woke up, It was already bright. I smelled the aroma of breakfast and walked to the kitchen. Blair was cooking. I was stunned. Princess Blair, what day is it that you're gracing us with your culinary skills? Blair jutted her chin towards the courtyard outside. The day the detestable person disappears from here. Yesterday, Miranda knelt outside all night. I didn't care. I dragged Blair, who still wanted to argue, back to her room, closed the door, and went to rest. In our separate rooms, of course. I sat down at the dining table and took a bite of the egg toast she made. Also the day Princess Blair failed at cooking for the first time. Blair rushed over, trying to snatch the toast away. It's burnt. Don't eat it. I'll make you another one. I turned away, avoiding her. No need to be so wasteful. It's still edible. Blair was skeptical. Really? Really? I held up the toast. Right. Just as she was about to take a bite, I leaned in and gently kissed the corner of her lips. She froze instantly, the tips of her ears turning a visible shade of red. Tony. I satisfyingly pinched her cheek. I heard you. I heard you. Why are you shouting so loud? Even louder than yesterday. Blair. She was silent for a long time, then she threw herself into my arms, murmuring, I thought you'd forgotten everything. When you first woke up after the car accident, you forgot so many things. I almost thought I'd have to take care of a big idiot for the rest of my life. I stroked her hair. How could I? Even if I forgot myself, I would never forget you. When I didn't even recognize myself, during the time of disbelief, there was one person I never guarded myself against, whom I trusted completely. She looked up, a satisfied smile on her face. Finally, you're smart for once. This princess hasn't been secretly in love with you for all these years for nothing. Something clenched in my heart. I couldn't help but say, Blair, how are you even more clueless than me? To like someone like me. She was incredibly smug. Obviously, this princess has better taste in men. I know how to wait for someone worth waiting for. I laughed too. Yes. Yes, you're the best. Miranda's extra recently. I keep running into a boy. In class, he's always in room 111. It's as if he's trying to bump into me, but his methods are so clumsy, and he's a terrible actor. It's all written on his face. It's a little annoying. It's not that I haven't been liked by other boys, but no one has been as blatant as him. I thought he'd give up after a while, but he's surprisingly persistent. I intentionally spent time with Stev, hoping he'd get the hint and back off. The sadness in his eyes was so obvious. And then, sure enough, he didn't appear for a long time. I breathed a sigh of relief, but I also thought, a person like him is only ever interested in things for 3 minutes. A rich young master who's never had to suffer. Unlike people like us. I remembered what Stave had said, and my mood soured even more. Even when Stave hinted at us being together, I found excuses to politely decline. I didn't have the time or energy for romance. I had to take care of my parents, support my family. Thankfully, Stave was always understanding of my difficulties and didn't bring it up again. Instead, he did his best to help me. But unexpected things always happen without warning. My mother's condition worsened, and we urgently needed a huge sum for medical expenses. Just when I thought I was at a dead end, that boy reappeared. What do you want? I asked. He shook his head. I laughed coldly in my heart, not sure if I was laughing at him or myself. Then, let's be together. I heard my own voice. I knew what he wanted, yet he was still pretending. But I had no other choice. I needed the money, so I could only sell myself. His relationship with his family wasn't good, so he always liked to cling to me. But I was so busy, I had no time. Gradually, he started seeking me out less. I thought he'd finally gotten the message. But then he started making trouble for Stev. I told him off countless times, but he refused to admit it, and it always ended unhappily. Finally, he quieted down. I breathed a sigh of relief, then I saw him at the nursing home, talking to another woman. It was Blair. I knew her. She was his childhood friend. Her family background was similar to his. If it weren't for me, they would have been a perfect match. I'm a woman. I knew all too well the look in her eyes when she looked at him. He would complain to her, bicker with her. But he never did those things with me. How could he be like that? Saying he liked me, but then being with another woman. He thought I was drunk that day, but I knew I wasn't. I don't know where it came from, but a possessiveness of fur never knew I had swallowed me whole. After I found out I was pregnant, I don't know why, but I felt a sense of relief. We have a child, so that means I have to be with him, right? I also don't know why I decided to lie on that operating table. I thought it would be a punishment for him. But I was wrong. My pain was 1,000,000 times greater than I could have imagined. Everything shattered, spiraling out of control. I also don't know how I said those words. Maybe I had gone crazy. The moment he signed the divorce papers, I realized I had truly lost my mind. I couldn't let him go, but when I came to my senses, it was too late. I fired Stave. His past acceptance of kickbacks and leaking of company secrets made it impossible for him to continue in the industry. He begged outside my door for days, but eventually had to leave the city in disgrace, disappearing completely. I still couldn't bring myself to delete the contact note in my phone, but one day I was drunk and called, only to find the number no longer existed. Later, I heard that he and Blair had a grand wedding. I finally realized one thing. I had completely lost him. It was raining heavily outside, the damp air seeping into the very depths of my heart. It was my fault. I had lost him, and I had lost myself. I'm sorry. Please don't meet me again next time. Main story end. Extra story: the next time I saw Miranda was 3 years later. My mother is not going to make it. She wants to see you one last time. Looking at the haggard, thin woman in front of me, I almost didn't recognize her. Was this the once beautiful and glorious Miranda Priestley? In just 3 short years, she looked like she had aged 10 years. I heard she had contacted many college classmates to find my current whereabouts. Our ties had been severed, but thinking of the frail old woman on her deathbed, I finally nodded. Okay. But I have something later. I probably can't stay long. Miranda's originally dim eyes suddenly lit up, as if she hadn't expected me to agree so readily. For a moment, she seemed at a loss. It's fine. It's great that you're willing to go. Her face was filled with an unprecedented mix of confusion and nervousness. She said softly, I'm so grateful that you're willing to come. I called home, then went with Miranda to see her mother. Surprisingly, her mother was no longer living in the nursing home. The car finally stopped in front of an old apartment building. Oh, right. I heard that a few years ago, Miranda and Stave had a major falling out. Stave, filled with resentment, deliberately joined a rival company and step by step pushed Miranda to the brink of collapse. The company went bankrupt. Her assets weren't enough to cover her debts. It seemed she had borrowed money from classmates everywhere. After so many ups and downs, she had fallen so far. Not to mention being unable to afford the exorbitant fees of the nursing home, she didn't even have a place to live. She could only barely afford to rent a place like this. At the door, Miranda didn't immediately go in. She placed her hand on the door, took a deep breath, and then pushed it open. Her mother was lying on the bed, looking haggard, her breathing weak. Mum, Miranda called out softly. Her mother heard the call and opened her eyes, but then slowly turned her head away and closed them again. Miranda walked closer, saying softly, Mum, Tania's here to see you. Her mother suddenly stiffened. She trembled as she looked up. I offered a quiet greeting. Auntie. Her mother's eyes immediately reddened, and tears started to fall, landing on the back of her bony hand. Miranda rushed over to wipe her tears, but her mother immediately pushed her away. You get out. I don't have a daughter like you. Miranda was caught off guard and fell to the ground, tears welling up in her eyes. I felt a little awkward, not understanding how their relationship had become like this. Auntie. Don't be angry. But her mother's tears fell even more freely. Her lips trembled, her voice hoarse and choked. I know everything. It was Miranda who wronged you. It was our family who wronged you. I was silent for a moment, then shook my head. The past is in the past. We each have our own lives now. We have to look forward, right? Auntie, I've accumulated good karma my whole life to deserve such a rich reward. Tani, you were such a good boy. You shouldn't come here anymore. Miranda, with red-rimmed eyes, wanted to walk me downstairs. No need. Take good care of your mother. I glanced at my phone. Miranda gave a bitter smile. Ever since she found out we divorced, she's never acknowledged me again. She looks at me every day, but it's always with anger. I had no patience to listen to this, nor was I interested. I took out my car keys, ready to leave. Miranda started to say something, but then stopped. Are you in a hurry? How about something to eat, or a cup of tea? I nodded. Actually, I am in a bit of a rush. It's time to pick up my daughter from school. It's a disaster. If I'm late, her mum will make me stand in the corner. Miranda looked as if she had been struck by lightning. Her body swayed, her face as pale as a sheet of paper. What? Oh, I forgot to tell you. My daughter, Blair Jr. I smiled faintly. You've never met her. She has her mother's eyes, but my nose and mouth. She's very beautiful. Miranda couldn't say another word. She slumped onto the sofa, slowly covering her face with her hands, letting out a soft sigh. I turned and left. Just as the door closed, a heart-wrenching sob came from inside the house. I paid it no mind and walked straight out, heading quickly to the local kindergarten. Daddy, a small, soft, fragrant little girl, threw herself into my arms. I lifted her up. Momi made delicious food at home today. The little girl immediately wrinkled her nose, looking very pitiful. Daddy, I want to eat the food you cook. I gently tapped her nose. The missing piece in my heart had long been filled with love. The old stories had all turned to smoke,